So if you're running a project or leading a team or, even just trying to navigate personal deadlines in the modern world, the pressure.
Oh, absolutely. It's relentless.
It's this state of high volatility.
Wow.
You have unexpected problems that just stack up faster than you can solve them, and the expectation is you always have a grounded answer.
Right. And we're all looking for that resilience, that kind of focus that doesn't just survive it, but actually uses it.
And that search usually takes us to, the latest self-help books or these really complex business strategies.
The usual suspects. But what if the ultimate blueprint for resilience wasn't new at all? What we found in the sources is that resilience isn't some fixed personality trait.
It's not something you're just born with.
Not at all. It's a meticulously built internal architecture. It's a framework, really, for how you interpret adversity.
And the source material for this deep dive is, well, it's pretty astonishing. We're talking about an ancient leadership blueprint sketched from a Roman prison cell.
By the Apostle Paul. We're primarily analyzing his letter to the Philippians, chapters 1 through 4.
Right.
So our mission today is really to uncover how Paul, locked up, facing a trial that could literally end in his execution, managed to find clarity and purpose not in spite of his chains, but because of them.
He reframed adversity.
Completely, seeing it not as a painful setback, but as a platform, a hidden catalyst for impact. And this is so crucial today because, technical skill or business savvy alone just isn't enough anymore. Not for the kind of unpredictability we're all facing.
That is such a profound shift in perspective. Most of us see hardships, a failed project, a sudden market crisis, as, interruptions to the real work.
Exactly, disruptions.
But this blueprint forces us to consider that the constraint is the training ground. So let's unpack that core paradox.
We have to start with the scene itself. Just picture it.
Set the stage for us.
You have Paul, probably the most effective missionary and communicator of his time.
A major figure.
A major figure. And he's locked in this dim, stale Roman room, chained to a guard 24/7. By every modern metric of leadership, expansion, visibility, momentum, his career is stopped.
The CEO is in handcuffs. We'd call that an institutional failure, a total collapse.
Right. And yet, when he starts dictating this letter, there's just no hint of self-pity or denial or victimhood.
Just this, almost scandalous joy. It seems completely out of place.
And that joy is built on the cornerstone statement for this entire resilience framework. It's Philippians 1:12. He says, "I want you to know, brothers, that what has happened to me has really served to advance the gospel."
That's great reversal. He doesn't minimize the chain. He strategically redefines what it does.
And you highlighted that the specific Greek word for advance is vital here. It's prokope. We can't just read that as, a gentle stroll forward.
Not at all.
No, absolutely not. If we miss the meaning of prokope, we miss the whole foundation of his resilience. It's a powerful military and engineering term.
So not just progress.
Not at all. It specifically describes a pioneer force cutting a path through a thick, impenetrable forest, or even more vividly, a team removing massive boulders to pave a highway for the emperor.
So he's basically saying, you think Rome's intention was to stop me?
Yes.
Their actions, my imprisonment, that's become my heavy machinery.
Precisely. His suffering is the machete. His chains are the bulldozers. He realized this trouble was clearing a path for his message where it never could have gone if he were traveling freely.
That reframes every unexpected detour as potentially the main route. It reminds me of that analogy we found in the sources about the garden hose.
Yes, the theology of constraint. We usually think of influence in terms of, expansion, wider platforms, more resources.
Scale.
Right. But if you want the water in a garden hose to spray farther with more power, you don't widen the opening, you constrict it. You put your thumb over the spout.
And the pressure builds.
Paul realized that Rome had put its thumb over his life, but instead of losing power, his influence was pressurizing. He understood his message was getting maximum velocity and distance because he was constricted.
That feels so counterintuitive to every business strategy written today. The goal is always to maximize access. But if you, the listener, really internalize this, you have to consider the chain you're fighting against right now.
That limitation, that frustrating project restriction.
And what if seeing that exact constraint as a funnel or a pressure nozzle actually forces you into a far more effective strategy for influence than free expansion ever could?
And that insight leads right into the next phase of the blueprint. Leveraging the constraint by strategically shifting your target audience. Paul couldn't preach in the public square.
So he looked at who was right in front of him.
And he realized his physical position gave him access to a far more influential and, crucially, a captive audience.
He wasn't chained to just some local city guard, which would have been bad enough. He was chained to the elite.
The Praetorium. The Praetorian Guard. This was the most influential, say, 9,000 to 10,000 men in the entire empire. Caesar's personal bodyguards.
The ultimate power brokers.
And because Paul was a high-profile prisoner, the protocol required him to be chained by the wrist to a new rotating guard every 4 hours.
That is access that money just couldn't buy. It's the highest level of exclusive, one-on-one niche marketing possible in the Roman world.
Think about the practical reality of that. Over the months he was there, hundreds, maybe thousands of these influential men heard Paul dictating his world-changing letters. They heard him praying.
I saw him up close.
They watched him endure all the humiliation with this profound dignity. They were exposed to his message at point-blank range because he literally could not get away from them. The disaster of prison became a VIP access pass.
This defines what we could call situational awareness of providence for a resilient leader. It's that ability to pause in the middle of a crisis and ask,
Who am I now in the room with?
whom I would otherwise never meet. What highly influential audience has this setback strategically delivered me to?
Exactly. Paul's mission was fixed. Preach Christ. His preferred method, traveling freely, was blocked. So he just allowed God to update the platform to house arrest with soldiers. Resilience requires that flexibility to accept that the blocked door might just lead to a better room.
Okay, now let's talk about the pain that cuts deeper than physical chains, the internal threat. Paul wasn't just dealing with Rome. He was dealing with friction from friendly forces.
And this is where most leaders, I think, really break. He mentions other Christians are preaching from envy and rivalry, thinking to afflict me in my imprisonment.
They're using his sidelining as their own career launchpad.
And actively hoping to rub salt in his wounds while he was powerless. The external pressure was intense, but that internal friction, that betrayal, that's the acid that just dissolves your spirit.
And Paul's reaction here is the defining moment of internal resilience. It's this holy indifference.
It is the ultimate ego death. He just says, what then? Only that in every way. Christ is proclaimed, and in that I rejoice. He completely detached his worth from his personal credit, from his reputation.
Didn't care who got the recognition.
He prioritized the fame of Jesus, the mission, over his personal fame, the variable.
This radical detachment, it connects directly to Philippians chapter 3, where Paul essentially lists his resume. He's got maximum status capital.
Oh, he does. Circumcised the 8th day, Hebrew of Hebrews, a Pharisee, blameless under the law. He had every credential, every badge of honor his culture valued, the perfect pedigree.
But then he does this forensic spiritual audit on all of it.
And he concludes that those things which the world counted as gain and defined his self-worth, he now counts as loss for Christ, and he calls them skubalon.
You have to stop and define that word because the English translations are always so polite. Why is the original Greek so shocking?
Because skubalon is vulgar. It is not polite garbage. It means refuse dross, or most commonly excrement thrown to the dogs. So Paul, the great intellectual is looking at his meticulously curated resume, his titles, his family history, and saying, it's a sewage pile.
That's the principle of identity detox. The moment you define your identity by what the world gives you, your title, your accolades, you become intensely vulnerable when those things are taken away.
Exactly. A resilient foundation cannot be built on credentials. It can't be built on performance. It requires treating external success as skubalon so that you are, in spirit, unfireable.
So if you lose your job or your title, your internal architecture is still intact.
Because your identity is now internal, found in him. This is what allowed him to survive betrayal. He wasn't running on his own pride.
Okay, so if identity is internal, great. But identity doesn't pay the courage bill. Once he rejected his own status as his source of strength, he had to get fuel from somewhere else.
Right.
Which brings us to the logistics of endurance. For the modern leader facing burnout, the question is, okay, I get the theory, but how do I sustain this? How did Paul maintain output without his tanks running empty?
It's the key question. Amateurs talk strategy. Professionals talk logistics and supply chains. Courage is expensive. And Paul answers this with one specific, incredibly rich Greek word for supply in Philippians 1:19. The word is epikourigos.
And that word gives us a beautiful cultural picture, doesn't it?
It connects us directly to ancient Greek theater. Epicurregius refers to the Peregus. This was a wealthy patron, a nobleman, who would lavishly supply the immense costs for grand drama productions.
So they'd fund the costumes, the chorus, the stage.
Everything. If the patron was rich, the production was magnificent and could run indefinitely.
So Paul is applying that high-budget, high-production metaphor to his spiritual capacity in prison.
He is claiming the Holy Spirit is his wealthy patron, his divine quartermaster, who is lavishly funding his emotional and spiritual capacity. He wasn't relying on his own small, depleted reservoir of willpower. He was spending someone else's resources.
When he felt fear, the patron deposited courage.
Exactly. When he felt exhausted, the patron supplied fresh energy. His endurance was a fully funded project.
So how did he connect to that supply line? That's the practical takeaway for us.
He gives the schematic in the same verse. The supply comes through your prayer and the supply of the Spirit of Jesus Christ. He believed the intercession of the Philippians, the human activity of community prayer, was the mechanism.
That's what opened the valve.
It's what opened the valve for the divine supply. Resilience is fundamentally a community project. Asking for prayer isn't weakness, it's connecting to the essential supply line provided by the patron. If you try to endure in isolation, you will burn out.
That shifts the focus from solo heroics to a shared burden. Okay, let's move to the practical resilience toolkit Paul provides for the church as a whole. First, cultural resilience. How do you stop the team from fracturing when everything external is collapsing?
He gives them a powerful command in Philippians 1.27, politoest.
Which means,
live as citizens of your true capital city. In the middle of an intense constraint, the team fractures if individuals forget their ultimate allegiance. If they act like mercenaries, they scatter. If they act like citizens of a greater kingdom, they hold the line.
and he emphasizes holding the line by introducing synethleo, striving together, which draws on a very specific military metaphor.
The Roman phalanx formation, the disciplined shield wall. Each soldier's large shield covered the man next to him, locking them together.
So your personal protection depended on the integrity of the whole line.
Exactly. If one person runs or drops their shield, the entire formation breaks. Resilience is a unified, shared effort. It demands a culture where you lock shields in the face of adversity.
Finally, let's talk cognition. Paul was facing constant pressure, the threat of death. How did he manage the inevitable anxiety that chains and betrayal produce?
Anxiety, which the Greeks called myrmnao, is literally a divided or torn mind. Paul provides a replacement cycle in Philippians 4 that culminates in the peace of God, which acts as a force,
A military guard.
a military guard or sentinel at the door of the mind. He's describing the peace of God as stationing an armed sentry to stop unauthorized, toxic thoughts from entering your inner fortress.
But the mind needs instruction. How does the resilient leader manage the input?
He provides the content filter in Philippians 4.8. The core command is logizomai. It means to calculate, to perform a forensic audit on your thoughts.
An inventory.
A systematic inventory. The resilient leader doesn't let their mind drift into rumor or negativity. They deliberately choose to calculate, to fixate their mental focus only on things that are true, noble, just, pure, lovely, whatever things are of good report. Change the calculation and you change the emotional output from anxiety to peace.
This whole blueprint, it's a fundamental inversion of how we seek safety. It teaches that true liberty it's theological and internal, not geographical or dependent on external circumstances.
And the supreme strategy, the thing that makes his resilience impenetrable, is in Philippians 1.21. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain.
The enemy has no checkmate.
None. Not against a person who has already classified the ultimate loss, death, as an ultimate profit.
Yeah.
He solved the problem of fear by preemptively defining his absolute worst-case scenario as a win.
And that ultimate resilience is proven by the final stunning detail in the letter.
It is the mic drop that proves the whole prokope strategy worked. The final greeting Paul sends is from all the saints, but especially those who are of Caesar's household.
Wow.
The chain didn't stop the message. It transported the message directly into the very heart of the enemy's camp, converting members of Nero's personal staff.
The obstacle was not just the way. The obstacle was the vehicle itself. It was the only way he could have reached them.
That's right. The chain was his elevator to a highly influential niche audience. And it forces a critical thought for you, the listener. Consider the current situation you're facing, your unexpected limitation, your personal prison.
Their constraint.
And ask what unlikely audience or strategic advantage this difficulty has specifically chained you to right now. And finally, define the one legacy action you must protect at all costs, regardless of whether your freedom or your reputation is threatened. Your resilience is measured by what you refuse to compromise when you're under pressure.